Welcome to Wisconsin DNR's Wild Wisconsin Off the Record podcast. Information straight from the source.
Welcome to another episode of the Wisconsin DNR Wild Wisconsin Off the Record podcast. So as a reminder, this gives you kind of an inside look at some of the work that DNR staff are doing to improve your time in the outdoors. We've actually got a very special episode tonight. So we've got the guys from the Hunting Public. It's a web series. If you're not familiar with it, you're about to be very familiar with it. We've got those guys joining us right now. We're actually live from Iowa County. So we're filming some web series segments for Wild Wisconsin out here for deer season. So we're going to give you kind of an introduction to these guys, what they're all about as the Hunting Public, get their story, how they got into hunting, how they found themselves working with Wisconsin DNR for the web series. So without further ado, today we're joined by Aaron Warbritton, Jake Hubschman, and Greg Clements from the Hunting Public. So we'll just go around quick and get some intros from you guys, give the listeners kind of an idea of who you guys are as hunters, how you got into kind of where you're at now. So Aaron, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, I started out in the outdoors at a very young age, probably like a lot of your listeners. And my family and friends got me involved when I was 5, 6 years old, you know, well before I could legally hunt. And just on blood trails and just anything, fishing, hunting, outside, and just eventually grew into hunting. I really fell in love with it when I was in my early teens, 13, 14, 15 years old, started toting a video camera around the woods with my cousins and filming our hunts, and eventually found a way to edit them together, pretty basic stuff back then, but fell in love with it at an early age and decided that was really the only thing that I wanted to do in life. So just continued to pursue it, and now that's our full-time gig here at the Hunting Public.
Jake, how about you?
Pretty similar start to Aaron. Got started at a young age. I had a really great mentor in my grandpa and my dad, and I saw their passion for the outdoors and hunting and fishing and trapping and whatnot, and kind of followed suit with those guys. And like Aaron, just picked up a video camera when I was in high school, and then I went on to school for agriculture after that, and quickly realized that I wasn't going to be able to work in agriculture my whole life because I was thinking about being in the woods too much, and that was a busy time of year. So luckily enough, I landed a gig with these guys, and here we are today.
Greg, how about you? I think your story is interesting too, because we've done some shoots with DNR staff already, from research staff to biologists, and it's been interesting listening to you kind of interact with them, because you've actually got a background in wildlife. So can you touch on that?
Yeah, I mean, my story as far as growing up hunting is very similar to Aaron and Jake's. All my family hunts, so that was a natural progression for me. My two main passions when I was younger were wildlife biology, studying animals, and also photography and videography. So I went to school for the first, and that was to become a wildlife biologist. Went to the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, and I was very fortunate there to be able to work with Dr. Scott Hinkstrom on a deer research project. So got to go out and help capture deer, track radio-collared deer. It was just kind of whitetails, all year round, helping out with that project. And then I was able to do my master's degree studying movements and survival of bucks. Going out, capturing, radio-collaring bucks and tracking them around. So that was a very exciting time. That took up 5 or 6 years of my life, and they're some of the best, most memorable and exciting years. So after I got out of school, I kind of started heading more towards my other passion, and that was filming and photography. And then in the last year, started working with Aaron and Zach and Jake, and like they said, here we are today, about a year into this project, and we're real excited about it. Really wanting to promote public land hunting opportunities, educating people on the opportunities that exist out there, and then also really promoting the social aspect of hunting, the camaraderie that involves
getting new hunters.
Right, and getting new hunters involved in the sport. So that's really, in a nutshell, what the hunting public is all about.
So I think a term that's thrown around a lot is someone eats, sleeps, and breathes something. You hear someone say a lot, I eat, sleep, and breathe hunting. I eat, sleep, and breathe fishing. But I think what you're going to get from these guys as we continue to talk tonight, and as you watch the series, is their passion really comes through when they're on camera talking, when we're off camera shooting the breeze. You really get it from these guys that this is what they want to do, and they're good at it. We're going to talk about that too. So the hunting public, can you guys give me an idea of what is the hunting public? What are you guys all about?
Yeah, I mean, the name kind of has dual meaning, and we came up with it just basically sitting around the table like we are right now, a while back now. But it doesn't necessarily mean, hunting public land. It's more to refer to the hunting public in general, almost like the general public, people that hunt in general, the hunting public. That's who we want to relate to. That's who we want to inspire through all of our videos. And that's kind of our sole mission, is to never lose sight of that fact.
We want to be able to appeal to everybody. We don't want anything that we do to feel exclusive, like we're better than, because that's all we are, is just people that grew up loving hunting. We're not any better or anything than anybody else. We just really love to hunt.
We spend a lot of time in the woods, yes, but that allows us to show people what kind of mistakes we make, what kind of successes we have, just like they do, I mean, we don't try to paint some kind of different picture other than the reality of what is, and that is that we're just average folks that love to hunt just as much as anyone else.
And I think that's what a lot of people find really relatable about watching us, is that we are just them.
And I think that's really admirable, especially in an industry like the hunting industry. I think a lot of the times you see the start and you see the finish, and you don't see what happens in the middle. You see the big buck at the end. I think one huge reason why we wanted to work with you guys, and we're so glad that you came on board, is you're everyday guys. Mm-hmm. You're all excellent hunters, but at the end of the day, you're showing people exactly how to do these things that you guys do. They can take the info that you give them and really apply it in the field, which is something that we try to do every day at the department. You mentioned hunter recruitment. That's huge for us as well. Obviously, we're all in the same boat with that one. So it sounds like with the name, you're really trying to relate to the general public. My next question was actually, do you only hunt public land? But I think you already answered that one. So how do you guys go about kind of choosing what goes on in a typical day, or what you're going to share with people? What's that thought process like?
Oh, I mean, we constantly bounce ideas off just to see, and we even ask our audience. That's another thing. We do live podcasts and all kinds of Q&A type sort of research sessions and brainstorming sessions with our audience to try to figure out what they want or what they need at that given time.
Yeah, I mean, and we're learning from our friends and viewers as well. Like this
Right.
fall, we're going to try tree saddle hunting. And there's a friend of ours who's really passionate about that and is doing more and more of that. So we can see, there's an opportunity there to optimize our setups when we go hunting. Get farther back in to carry less weight. So we're always learning and adapting and sharing that with our viewers and listeners.
That's all we're trying to do, is show people the learning process, warts and all.
Just like you mentioned before, you said a lot of the hunting shows nowadays that all you see is someone going out and then there's the kill. And with the platform, we're on YouTube, so we can not only post the success, which is very few times, as a lot of people know when you go out, but all the mistakes, which is what most people can relate to and learn from more than even the success, is when all the mistakes that we make in the field too.
Yeah, and in a digital sense, that's the way the world works nowadays. Is the communication tools are much different than they used to be. We're on all these different social media platforms for a reason, and that is to maintain connection with the hunting public. That's why we do it.
Yep, and I think something that's really interesting too is if you follow these guys on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, they're always in there asking questions. It's such an interactive experience. If if hunters are following along with these guys throughout the fall, they're learning as they go with help from these guys. So whether they're out there making mistakes or whether you're sharing in them shooting a buck, I think it's just an experience that everyone can relate to. And I think that's a really strong pull, especially for a lot of these younger generations, whereas used to be hunting DVDs with a big old buck on the front. It used to be magazines full of ads and stuff, and you guys are it is just hunting in its purest form, and I think that's been really interesting for people to experience. So what's your guys' growth been like? So you said you started right around a year ago?
Less than about 10 months ago.
October 1.
October 1, so yeah. Mm-hmm.
So how did it start? Were you guys just kind of like, let's do this thing and see where it goes? And so how did it all start and kind of lay it out for me how you got to where you are kind of 10 months later, what you're seeing, what you're learning about kind of this niche that you're trying to carve?
I think we all shared the same passion, which is hunting, but I think the cool thing about our group is we all have a very similar mindset, but we all have very different personalities and are into different things, and I think that's why we can appeal to so many different people is we all are into different things as far as hunting styles and whatnot, and that's what kind of makes us appealing to everybody.
We use that to our advantage, whereas some will want to click into a certain group or whatever, and that's fine if that's the way you decide to do things. But in order for us to appeal to a wider audience, like you mentioned, with our kind of melting pot of personalities, we can do that. And it all kind of started. We all had background in the hunting industry and in hunting media well before this began. And like I mentioned, it just kind of we got together. We needed work, all of us, and we were debating on going back to the everyday grind jobs that we essentially loved to do before we started down the hunting industry line. And then we got to talking about, well, what do people need that love to hunt? What do people need that don't love to hunt yet to get into hunting? And how can we help them? Because we have these tools that we can offer the hunting world, essentially. So we came up with the idea, sitting around the table.
And I think it's great, too. I mentioned the DVDs and the magazines. If you're not familiar with hunting, it's really similar to a lot of other industries like sports and those things. There's a lot out there. I think with digital media the way it is, I think it's a great thing that people really have the ability to share anything and everything. Everyone probably has friends on Facebook that share probably a little too much. I think we can agree on that. There's probably some blocking going on. But I just think you guys have done such a smart thing here, and that's why I wanted to ask kind of what you've learned as you've gone on. Is there something in particular that you've really found people have really reacted positively to as far as what you're sharing, or what are you guys seeing?
Yeah, the feedback has been overwhelmingly positive, and it's been basically what our core mission is, and that's to be relatable and to grow and strengthen the hunting community, and also hopefully inspire people to hunt. And we've gotten that kind of feedback, so that's really kind of set our path. I mean, that's where we wanted to go. We see people are responding to that.
And promoting public land.
And promoting public land
people
hunting.
That only hunted private land exclusively. We've got more than we can count messages about people that have only hunted private land their whole life and are really excited to go out and try public land or tried public land last year. And I think that's been one of the coolest things for me to at least to read in the messages and comments.
There's all kinds of misconceptions out there about public land, and we try to we're 100% honest in everything that we show. And it's not rocket science by any means, but like we mentioned, it's just we're regular people that are doing this more often than most. So we get to show you more experiences.
For example, our most viewed video is
not a kill.
Is a hunt where we spook a buck. A hunter walks in on the setup and spooks another buck that's coming towards these guys. That's our most viewed video. It's not a successful hunt.
Yeah, and we talked to the hunter and had no problems. We discussed the hunt and how they've been doing or whatever, and actually had a positive experience come out of that. People could relate to that video, and we want to show people that are hunters and that are non-hunters that there is all this access that they have out there. We are very lucky in this country in comparison to lots of others. We have all this public land that we all own, that we can use. You know, and if you're wanting to get into hunting, don't use the excuse, I don't have anywhere to go, because that's just simply not true in most cases.
And I think accessibility is a theme that just is so overarching with hunting as a whole. Me working for the DNR and these guys, you're kind of hearing their core values come out here. We need new hunters. We need to find ways to get new hunters. And I think accessibility is such an important part of that. And you guys are really showing that. So you mentioned kind of letting people know that public lands are out there, but how are the ways that you've found that you think are most useful in kind of showing people that you can go hunting? There aren't that many barriers kind of keeping you from entering into the sport, whether you want to be serious, you want to hunt 40 days a year, or if you want to go up north to the cabin and hunt the Wisconsin 9-day gun deer hunting season. So how does accessibility kind of fit in kind of on that thematic scale, rather than showing people where they can actually go hunt on public land? How does accessibility kind of fit into what you're doing, sharing that it's easy to get into this sport if you really try?
Yeah, I think there's so much information out there nowadays with digital media that people can really learn how to hunt very quickly. But we found there hasn't been a ton out there about promoting public land specifically and the opportunities that exist, because a lot of people they find good public land, they kind of want to protect that good thing that they have going. We're more concerned about growing the sport of hunting, getting more people involved, and so we absolutely want them to know that these opportunities exist.
Positive experiences in the field. That's really what it comes down to. And like Greg mentioned earlier, a big part of our mission is increasing the social aspect of hunting, which is something that Wisconsin is very rich in tradition with. Deer camp is a huge deal.
After growing up in Wisconsin and then being able to travel to different states, I feel very lucky to grow up here and with the camaraderie and the tradition that is, especially the Wisconsin 9-day gun season, but just deer hunting in general.
Mm-hmm. And we just try to show, no matter if it's a successful hunt, successful encounter, successful day scouting, or if you're out there and you're just running into people everywhere on public land, which does happen from time to time when we show that. But we have very, very few negative experiences out there. Most time when we run into other people, it ends up being a great thing because we run into somebody just like us.
Yeah,
they're going out there. They're hunters, just like us. So immediately we have something to talk about. We just made a new friend.
We talked about accessibility, and you mentioned one of your most popular videos was spooking a buck. There was no harvest, nothing involved. Do you guys have a feel for kind of what type of content that you share tends to resonate the best with people, whether it's preparing for your hunt, actual hunt videos, follow-up, what you could have done better? Do you guys have a feel for kind of what people seem to resonate with the most, or is it just kind of start to finish, people are really latching on to it?
Whatever is most relatable. I guess in that video, there's 3 real big things I can think of that are really relatable. A lot of people have spooked a big buck, first thing that happens in that video. A lot of people that hunt public land have had somebody walk in on them. That also happened in that hunt. I guess I don't know what the third thing was I was looking for.
Yeah, he spooked another buck. He climbed out of the stand, he spooked another buck.
The old double spook.
Yeah,
but those 2 things right there, I think, is what people really respond to. One is the hunting strategy, learning about deer behavior. The follow-up video to that one really shows how that whole thought process goes into, I spooked a buck, what do I do now? Then also the interaction they had with the other hunter there on public land. People really responded to that because, Aaron didn't get upset. He just talked to the guy and said, good luck. It wasn't a negative experience. That guy has every right to be out there just as much as we do.
That's the mindset that you have to go into hunting public land with, is everybody has a right to be there. It's public land.
So I think those 2 things get a lot of response, hunting strategy, and then also just seeing positive interactions with other people in the field. Another one of my favorite memories from this last season is when Jake and Zach were out hunting. Jake shot a nice buck, the deer went down, they're celebrating, then all of a sudden a couple other hunters close by shoot, they see the deer run out of the woods, fall over, and they're celebrating, high-fiving for the guy that just shot the deer. Like, they don't even know who it is.
We were more excited when the guy shot the buck after I did. I think we were in shock after I shot the one I did, and then we just were so happy, and then we thought we had messed this guy's hunt up possibly earlier in that morning because he was already set up there, and we didn't realize it until we walked past him. And then we were all worried he was going to be upset with us or that we messed up his hunt, which we don't want to do, obviously. But shot that buck, and then he ended up
his first buck.
He ended up shooting
Kid,
shortly after that.
roughly 16-year-old kid,
Yeah,
something
shot
like
his
that.
first buck, made a good shot on it. We went over there, talked to him,
Yeah.
high-fived him.
Yeah.
And the kid actually messages us on Instagram pretty regularly now.
So you gained a fan out of the process.
Yeah,
huh?
he ended
We
up very
see that
short.
all the time too, and across the board with all of our content, we sprinkle in a little bit of everything. Like you mentioned a while ago, the start to finish process is all there. We're filming videos right now where we're going out and we're scouting public lands. We are looking at maps on the computer, trying to choose places to hunt. We're going out there and filming velvet bucks, setting tree stand locations up, and the list goes on and on. But that's what it is all year long. It's a constant stream of content that's relevant to that time frame. So.
And I mentioned sports before because, not to go back to the hunting industry again, but I would compare it to football. Almost everyone watches pro football, whether you're a Packers fan or wrong. That doesn't really matter. But you watch on Sunday, you see the touchdown, the game winner in the fourth quarter. You don't see that guy dropping passes during the week in practice. And I think the hunting industry and what you see watching people hunt really turned into that fourth quarter Hail Mary, this is the greatest thing ever type of thing. And people really lost the enjoyment and the experience of the preparation, the scouting, getting ready to go, getting excited, spending time with family. So I think that's just such a valuable story to tell, and I think you guys are really doing a great job on it. So to switch gears a little bit, so you're here, we're in Iowa County. We've been shooting for 2 days for the web series. These guys are our hosts. How the heck did you guys get to be working with the Wisconsin DNR? Because when I started here, I didn't think any of this would have been a reality, and I'm so excited to be here because I really think this is the direction we need to go, as far not just working with private industry, but with kind of helping other people and getting help from other people telling this story. So how does this all work for you guys?
Like we mentioned a while ago, it's kind of a melting pot of different personalities and different factors all kind of coming together for the same goal. That's what our country is about, and in essence, not to get too cliche, but that is exactly what it is. And Wisconsin, we've noticed, is one of our biggest states. As far as viewership goes,
It is
our biggest state. As far as viewership goes, more people watch us here than anywhere else, and that's because of your rich hunting tradition and the amount of hunters that are in the state, the amount of access that's in the state is unbelievable. It's like 7 million acres.
I think our goals and values are, from talking to you, are a lot of the same things that you're trying to accomplish at the DNR, growing hunter numbers.
Exactly.
And at the end of the day, I mean, we need help. Sometimes you guys need help. I think it's important once we all realize that we're all kind of in this together. Mm-hmm. We obviously want to see more hunters. You guys want to see more hunters. Everybody wants the same thing. So I think when you finally kind of make that connection and realize, oh yeah, I agree with what you just said. That's exactly what we're doing. So it all starts to kind of make sense. So you guys are hosting the series. What do you hope to what do you want the viewer to see when they're watching this series? What do you guys want to get across? And what do you guys, after they shut off YouTube, what do you want them to say about the hunting public?
Well, hopefully that we're relatable. And then hopefully they, if they're not a hunter yet or if they're starting out, hopefully there was something there, whether it be safety or learning about deer behavior. There's something there that can help them, get involved first of all, and then maybe have more success in the field. And
I think that's exactly right. The last thing you said, Greg, is if they see us and they're interested, we're hoping we're teaching people, whether it's from our failures or successes, we're hoping we're teaching people and helping them become more successful in the field.
Right. We don't want to pretend that we have this whole thing figured out at all, because we most certainly don't. As far as hunting goes, you never will. It's a constant learning experience.
Which is why we all love it.
That's exactly right. And
Amen.
It's what we're trying to get across to folks, and just it's so much fun. It's incredible. That's why we love doing what we do every day. We just want to pass on that enthusiasm.
With the amount of time that we're able to spend in the field, we can get a pretty good idea of what at least we think works for us, and pass that on to everybody else. Mm-hmm. And on the platform that we're on, we can do it whenever we want, daily, pretty much. Every other day is pretty much when we're uploading. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's been eye-opening for us as well, getting to talk with DNR personnel, whether it's talking about CWD or public land opportunities that are out there, or just hunting safety. It's great to be reminded of those basics.
We're very conscious and concerned about the future of hunting and the long-term scope of things, and we don't forget that on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm. I think, can we just step back for a second before you said everybody wants more hunters, but I don't think that everybody realizes that they want more hunters. Maybe we should just talk about why it is important not to have the hunter numbers declining. I guess I've heard people say, less hunters, that's more deer for me, I guess. This is something I hear a lot where people are maybe not.
So that's Jake getting deep for everyone listening.
Maybe that's for a different podcast.
I know. I love where this is going, actually. We're going to run with this one. So why don't you guys speak from your perspective, and I'll try to give DNR's perspective.
Well, hunter numbers overall are declining. It's a pretty well-known fact now, and they have been for some time. More people are becoming aware of it all the time, but as Jake just mentioned, people relate everything back to their own individual situations. I mean, I know I used to, until I started to gain a broader perspective through what we were doing at the hunting public. And once you realize what the consequences of declining hunter numbers is, it's really scary stuff. If we lose a ton of hunters in the next 10, 15, 20 years, we not only lose those hunters, we lose public support for hunting. We lose the ability to create support in our local governments, state governments, federal government, in whatever the decision is, whether it's funding or public lands or regulations. I mean, that all goes to the wayside if we lose that support. Long term, it can't happen. I mean, for the future of hunting to continue to exist, in our opinion, we need to keep the hunter numbers up at where they are or higher.
I think when I was younger, everything sounded great. When you hear about less hunters, more deer for me. But when you maybe grow up a little bit or just start thinking about it a little more, you realize that we actually could lose the right to even hunt, and that's real scary for me, at least. And it's
lose funding for conservation.
Yeah. If you're not thinking that way, that's exactly how you lose.
Because there are people out there that do not want anybody to hunt. And
you get complacent, and before you know it, it's too late, and the landslide has already occurred, and you can't come back from it. You have to be conscious of this stuff if you want your kids, your grandkids, whatever, to be able to hunt.
Yeah. Speaking of kids, I mean, culture has changed so much. I mean, I was fortunate that I essentially grew up on a farm, so I was always outdoors doing something. But for kids nowadays, they're growing up in an urban environment, or growing up with devices in their hands all the time, and don't have an opportunity to
just go outside,
to get outside. I mean, so that's kind of why we're using the medium that we are. YouTube and all these social platforms is because that's where kids and
can reach the most people.
That's where they're at. So hopefully we can reach people that way and grow the number of hunters in the U.S.
And the reality of it is, we got to be realistic about how we think about this too. Not everyone's going to be a hunter, but I think we'd all agree that our goal is to give people an opportunity to see if they like it or not, because a lot of kids don't get that. You mentioned living in
just to understand.
Living in an urban environment, there's a decent chance that you go through life just not even having any experience with it. So I think that's really concerning, I think, for all of us. So from the DNR standpoint, obviously, license sales and the revenue that we get from license sales is just a huge driver for conservation in this state. Mm-hmm. Some people realize it, some people don't, but whether you like to hike, birdwatch, any of that stuff, a lot of this funding is really supporting conservation in this state, the habitat for all types of wildlife. And I'm glad Greg touched on it earlier, actually, about when he was speaking with DNR staff and just kind of the passion that they had for it. A lot of people don't realize that these people, this is what they do. they are out in the field, whether they're working on habitat. There's plenty of people in the office too doing just as important work. And when we think about maybe a future where hunting will probably always be a reality, but not such an important part of Wisconsin's culture, I think that's just really, really concerning from a social level.
Well, it would just be sad to make it more difficult to get into hunting than it is today. Not saying it's hard, but if it would get to the point where it was difficult to hunt or get into hunting, that would just be very, very sad for me at least.
Mm-hmm. So all really good points. I'm really glad we kind of went down that road. I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer, but we're here tonight. We're doing the series. These guys are doing their thing, kind of working to make sure that doesn't happen. And I hope you guys are really listening as to how they're trying to do that. And we hope if you are a hunter, you're taking people out with you, you're sharing the culture. Mm-hmm. If you're not a hunter, obviously we don't ask that. We're not saying you got to become a hunter. We just want kind of an understanding of what it's all about, how it really supports so many other things in this state. It touches so many people. It's so important to so many people. So now I guess we'll switch gears again. $1 million question. Are you guys hunting in Wisconsin this year?
Oh yeah. We've already hunted in Wisconsin this year.
For turkey, right?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
the spring. Yep.
It was awesome.
So what's the plan for deer season? You guys have one yet?
I'll be back for sure this fall. I guess last fall, with the internship that I had down there, was the first fall of my life that I wasn't here for the 9-day gun season, but that won't be happening again this year.
Yeah.
Obviously, one of my favorite weekends out of the year, as a lot of people listening probably know, it's just like a holiday for most, where whole family gets together and the camaraderie is fantastic. And I mean, if you're able to be successful, it's a lot of fun, but either way, it's always a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll be showing all that on the Hunting Public.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, that's going to be a big part of what we're doing.
Hope to pass, just because we have a lot of viewership in other states, but just the rich tradition that Wisconsin has, especially during the 9-day gun season, on to the other people in other states.
Yeah, that's honestly one of the hunts that I'm most excited to see. You know, as it gets produced, as it unfolds for you this fall, is to see that tradition.
Deer camp.
That Wisconsin deer camp tradition.
Mm-hmm.
One of the advantages we have is the ability to gain perspective from multiple different places, because Wisconsin's our #1 state as far as people watching, but we talk to people from all over the place. And like you guys were talking about, Wisconsin is very deeply rooted in that social aspect of hunting that you're talking about. Mm-hmm. And in a lot of places, trust me, it is leaving. It's something that is going away in hunting. Luckily for Wisconsin, it's still here. Mm-hmm. And that is a tremendous foundation to build off of moving forward. And yeah, we're not going to miss the opportunity not to show people that.
Well, we are definitely looking forward to that. I'm actually really interested to see where you guys choose to hunt. I'm going to keep my eye on that, actually.
We might tell you.
Yeah, so much for the learning thing. I guess they're not going to tell me. But so, public land, life on the road as public land hunters. You guys have been, as you mentioned, to a number of states. I think it's time for that part of the episode. What are your craziest, safe for work, obviously, stories that you've experienced hunting public land throughout the U.S.?
Oh man.
Let's see.
You had a lot.
Does it have to be during the hunting public, or can it be something before?
Nope, it can. We're gonna let that one slide. It can be before.
Okay.
Oh man, public land. There's all kinds of crazy stuff that has happened to us, involving venomous snakes and
literally cold temperatures, or ridiculous to even be out there. Or
oh yeah, Greg and I hunted late season, and it was actually the beginning of this last year, and it was, sub-zero temperatures. We're out there on public land with no blind, no nothing, and
sitting on the ground
in the snow.
This is down in Iowa, and you're not going to get a lot of sympathy from
No, I was just saying,
people about cold weather, but it was cold.
As soon as I opened my mouth, it's like, yeah, I shouldn't have gone down that road, because -3 is probably not that cold in Wisconsin.
It was a cold day.
Yeah, but it was awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't say that we regret doing it at all.
No,
it was an amazing experience. But going from that clear down to southern Mississippi turkey hunting on public land and
Dodging tornadoes.
Yeah. I mean, and dodging cottonmouths and everything else, you know.
You run into a lot of interesting people when you're out there traveling.
Very interesting people. Remember that guy this year down, where were we in Alabama?
You'd have to
Or
elaborate a little
Mississippi.
bit on which guy. Are you talking about the guy?
The guy
The guy with the beard?
The guy with the beard, the white
White
beard
beard.
that was living in the camp.
I did forget about that.
He was down there and he'd basically just been living out of a truck camp for years. I mean, off and on. At this point, he'd been living there for several months.
He was living in a national forest, like it was legal.
Yeah,
And,
it was.
I think he was from New
Hampshire.
Hampshire. He was from New Hampshire, and he said, "Yeah, I kind of just got sick of shoveling the snow and just to walk out to the mailbox to get the bills, so just hit the road one day, and he hadn't gone back since."
Yeah.
So how long has he been working for you guys?
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like you guys really have a lot of the same.
Yeah,
I hate
we
shoveling
talked to
snow.
we
That's
talked to
what
that
he
guy
said.
for 45 minutes to an hour.
He didn't even hunt.
He wasn't even a hunter. He was just loved the outdoors and loved public land, and that's why he was there. He was camping there and hiking every day and just talking about all the wild things that he saw and the people that he ran across. Like, super interesting cat.
And that is a true positive crazy story. I'm not going to say what I was expecting. I didn't know what to expect, but I'm glad you took it in that direction. He sounds like a very nice man. If he's listening, thank you for enriching these guys' lives. They all seem to be better men for it. So what's next for the hunting public? Obviously, you guys are helping us out with the web series. You're hosting it, but big picture, where do you guys want to go?
I mean, we want to, long term, we want to help shape hunting culture to the positive. Not to say that it's not positive already, but
I think we want to help shape the hunting industry more so than hunting culture. Just
I guess the hunting culture within the hunting industry.
Yeah.
Because as you mentioned, it's real glorified what you watch on TV, and we're just trying to more relate to.
Yeah, we don't want to be exclusive, like we said. We want people from all walks of life to be able to enjoy and understand this in some way, shape,
We
or
don't
form.
want somebody that's watching on TV to think it's reality to walk out your door every single day and shoot a big buck. We want to show everything it takes to get to that point, and we want to show.
We
people
enjoy that entire
We want to
process.
show
That's
people
what
that
makes
you
it
don't
great.
have to shoot a big buck either. You
Yeah.
can shoot whatever makes you happy.
Shoot whatever makes you happy. That's
And
right.
Yeah, that's going against the grain a little bit of what the hunting industry has become. Yeah.
So can I say you guys are the bad boys of deer hunting? Is that going against the grain?
I wouldn't say
Bad
that
boy, I
because,
would say
like, we'll
that.
take those guys hunting too. We don't care.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
I mean, if you're a big buck mania dude, like, let's go out and have some fun. I mean, we may not care what you shoot, you know.
We
But
might be the strange
Yeah,
guys.
we're definitely the strange guys.
Strange.
we would say that. But this fall we have our public land deer tour coming down the pipe, which should be really interesting. We're going to try to hunt multiple states on public land, including Wisconsin.
Yes.
And mainly just to appeal to different demographics of people across the landscape, you know,
And
relate to their situation.
Not to continue with the cliches, but I definitely get the feeling, spending a couple days with you guys, talking to you here, that it's not one of those situations where they get big and they kind of forget where they came from. I definitely get those vibes that it doesn't matter how big you guys are going to get, the message is going to stay the same, which I think was another really important thing for me and the DNR in kind of deciding to come on board with you guys. I think it's been really beneficial and a learning experience for both sides. So what I like to do before we wrap up the show, we're going to put a little spin on it right now. Usually based on the topic, I'll say, what's one thing you could tell someone about this topic right now who had no previous experience of it? You bump into them on the street, and you get one opportunity. So what is something the three of you could tell hunters as a whole right now?
Go have fun.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of my experience when I first started hunting. It's, it was fun. It was family. It was learning. Like, it was an entire learning process. And really kind of gaining self-confidence, too. You know, as you learn more, as you grow, as you improve your skill set. I think it can shape who you are. And it certainly has well into my adult life. You know, I'm very thankful. I essentially, like I said, grew up on a farm and grew up with family and friends that hunted, because it's it's essentially shaped the course of my life, and it's been a fun ride.
I'd say I like Greg's answer, and I would say create your own goals and do it for yourself. And probably, I think with media the way it is, and especially social media, a lot of people are just trying to impress other people, but I don't think that's something that you should make hunting, is you should just create your own goals and be happy with.
We also have a closing thoughts section if you want a second to think about that one.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
So we'll segue there. Do you guys have any closing thoughts before we wrap up here?
Learn the woods. That's a big thing.
The lost art of woodsmanship.
The lost art of woodsmanship. Just learn the woods. Just go out there and
and the best way to
figure
do that
out
is
which bird that is that you're looking at, or which direction that deer track is pointing, or when that deer made that rub. Is there some bark sitting on top of those freshly fallen leaves, and that's a fresh rub? There was a buck here in the last week or so. Just put these things together over time, and it's going to start to become really fun. You're not going to think about killing a deer. You're just going to be thinking about how to learn as much as you possibly can from this natural environment that you find yourself in.
And I think that applies to hunters and non-hunters, which I think is a really interesting thing. You can love spending time in the woods and haven't hunted a day in your life. So
you don't have to be a hunter. You can just be a gatherer, and learning the woods can
be extremely rewarding.
Yeah.
I would say just be positive and don't let life kick your butt too hard, for crying out loud, you've only got one shot at this thing. So wake up every day and make the best of the situation. That's kind of what we do all the time in our business. It's like, if you're not optimistic, if you're not positive every day that you go on, or every day that you get up and go to work, it's just
not going to be a very fun ride for you.
No, it's not.
I think those are all good closing thoughts. I'm just going to briefly say something that's came up a few times is we're all in this together. The department, obviously, we're working hard to improve what we do in reaching hunters and interacting with hunters. We think working with people like the hunting public is really going to help us get to where we need to go. Obviously, we need help from you, whether that's on social media, anything like that. We want to hear from you. We want to interact with you. Our staff, there's nothing they like more than the work that they do. So always try to keep that in perspective. But other than that, as I mentioned before, these guys are doing a heck of a job on the web series with us, Wild Wisconsin. It's going to be available in September. Be sure to check it out. We got main segments, bonus segments, podcasts like the one we recorded today. So thanks again for joining us. You can find this podcast and all of our other ones at dnr.wi.gov, keywords Wild Wisconsin, on our YouTube channel, which is WIDNR TV, our iTunes or Stitcher channels. We'll link to all that as well. dnr.wi.gov, keyword connect. You can find all of our social media channels, all our podcasts there. We really wanted to put it in one place for you, easy to find. Check out our social media pages, share your photos, share your stories, follow in the footsteps of these guys. We want to be interactive. We want to hear from you. We want to offer feedback. We want your feedback, news from the field, all that stuff. This is so important to us that hunting continues. Wisconsin's hunters are second to none. So if you want any more info, like I said, go to Keywords Wild Wisconsin. Other than that, thanks for joining us for another episode. Thanks to these guys for coming up to Wisconsin and helping us out. And we will be back with them for a couple more podcasts here. But other than that, stay tuned and thanks for joining us.